In this video, I'm going to present you with a color palette that I put together based upon this color, Stonington Gray by Benjamin Moore. I'm James, the color guy from the Paint People. This, of course, is Color Quickie. And being that it's Benjamin Moore week on our channel, we're gonna go through Benjamin Moore colors exclusively this week. Stonington Gray happens to be one of my favorite grays in the entire Benjamin Moore catalog. And that's saying a lot, because gray is actually pretty cool, especially cool grays like this one. No, but seriously, I know a lot of you watching, all my subscribers, all my commenters down below, thank you for commenting. Gray is kind of a polarizing topic. It is a color category that is kind of void of color. And there's going to be people that just think it's very banal and boring and predictable. And then there's other people that like it, but just struggle to use it because sometimes it can look cool, it can look warm, it can look green, it can look purple, it could be dark. Sometimes you just want gray. And I think Stonington Gray does a pretty good job at being gray. How's that for an intro? So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and press that like button if you enjoy this kind of content. We talk about paint colors, interior decorating, color theory, all that fun stuff, many times a week. So before we get into the color palette itself, let's start with Stonington Gray and get into some details and some helpful tidbits that I think you can get some value from. First off is the LRV. So this is a number that most paint companies will advertise, and you can see it right on the bottom of this little iPad here. The LRV for Stonington Gray is right around 59, nearly 60. And this is a 0 to 100 lightness score, or the percentage of light that the color reflects. 59 out of 100 on lightness, that's kind of a lighter mid-tone paint color. And what that translates to is a very good color to use inside your home. Anything in that high 50s, low 60s range, it's just kind of a sweet spot in terms of a color not feeling too light or too dark in many homes. Not all homes, I can't really say that. And that's why Benjamin Moore describes this color as an all-purpose silvery gray with relatively neutral undertones. I do find it to be a very neutral color. I think Stonington Gray does a great job at feeling like it's not really all that cool or warm leaning in a vacuum on its own, but in practical use, based on my experience, based on what many people's lighting conditions may be and the kind of light that people use, this is a color that will lean a little more towards the cool side of things practically. Which kind of makes sense because when you think of gray things, you think of metal, you think of cold steel. So there will be a tendency to have that shift towards the cool side, but you're not going to ever mistake it for this blue or anything. Like, it has a nice toned down feel that I think is extremely nice to look at. And if you are someone that wants a gray, a true gray, or just a cooler leaning gray ever so slightly, this is one of my best recommendations as a main color in a home. If you just wanted something with some richness, nothing too dark, but also something that's noticeable, you don't want to go with an off-white, I can't recommend this one enough, honestly. Now, the elephant in the room is, yes, maybe we're kind of, as a collective, moving away from the cooler grays. There's a lot more fondness for warmer neutrals, the more beige-leaning ones, tans, things of that nature. But there are absolutely people out there that want these cooler grays, and I would never go as far as to say something like this is dated or anything like that. It's not. It still feels very contemporary when used in the right circumstances. Now, being Color Quickie, I gotta quickly give you some other colors that go with Stonington Gray, including 2 trim color options and then 3 wall color pairings that go really well with it. So the first one is Decorator's White, which is going to be my #1 trim recommendation for Stonington Gray. What's great about Decorator's White? It's kind of a decorator's standard. I mean, it's in the name. And the reason for that is it's clean, it's simple, and it has just a touch of a cool gray aspect to soften it. So it's not going to feel too bright, fluorescent, reflective. It's just toned down enough to feel, you know, kind of like a quiet luxury, that kind of vibe, you know? Just not in your face. It's just, you know, it's there, you know, it doesn't need to show off too much. But that being said, next to Stonington Gray, it's gonna look white, just plain old white. Now, what if you wanted a trim color that was a little more colorful or darker? Gibraltar Cliffs would be my choice for a darker trim color. And as you can tell, it's not super dark. It has a 31 LRV, so you can get quite a bit darker if you really wanted to. But what I like about it is it's leaning into that subtle, cool cast that can sometimes show up in Stonington Gray. Although this one, it's not just a undertone or an effect of lighting, This is a cooler color. It is an aquatic blue leaning grayed out teal that has just a touch of green as well. Very, very rich. Just an interesting choice for trim if you wanted something that just has a little more color to it. And I also picked it because I've been to Gibraltar and it's awesome. Humble brag. Okay, so trim colors out of the way. Let's finally get into some color pairings. What are some other colors you can use in your home that go with Stonington Gray? Yes, you could go for just colors like Wickham Gray, which is extremely similar, a bit lighter, kind of double down on the gray, but I wanted to diversify your color palette portfolio in this video, which is why I want to start with collector's item as the first color pairing. Totally not a gray. This color is an off-white, an 81 LRV, so quite bright, but as you can tell, it is warmer leaning. It has a beautiful, pure creaminess, feels a little bit buttery to me, like buttermilk, and it almost has a very slight orange undertone to it, which gives it this peachy feeling that I think is stunning and really complements Stonington Gray beautifully. It just brings in this vibrance, this warmth that otherwise wouldn't really be there with Stonington, because that color is cool. It's sleek, but it's not lively. This color is that. And it is light enough where it's not going to feel electrifying. It's not a fluorescent yellow or anything like that. It has a nice composure to it. It's one of my favorite off-whites in the AF color line. So yeah, this one's a great choice. My second color pairing is a neutral similar to Stonington Gray, but just gives you a little bit of a different hue, a bit of a different kind of undertone. It's Apparition. Now this is a color that you could call a grayish. It is gray combined with some beige. And then you also have this slightly brown touch to it that gives it the slightest purple undertone in certain situations. So what's nice about that is you have now another neutral combined with Stonington Gray that can give you a different feel altogether in a different space. I have loved combining warmer and cooler neutrals together. I think that's such an awesome, underrated thing. And Apparition can do that because while Stonington Gray is more gray, slightly cooler blue leaning, this one has that bit of warmth. It gives you something a bit different and also feels a little bit adjacent because of that touch of purple that can sometimes appear depending on your lighting. But guess what? You won't know that unless you test your colors out. So please, before you get a big can of paint, get a really tiny one first. The third color pairing is the accent of the bunch, I guess you could say, but this one still kind of neutral-ish. It's not too daunting for most of you, I don't think. It is called Heather Gray. And unlike a Heather Gray sweater, which just kind of feels gray, this one is going to be essentially the green version of Gibraltar Cliffs, that trim color we talked about before. It has a 34 LRV, so just a bit lighter than Gibraltar Cliffs, but as you can see, if they're next to each other, one's quite green, one is more blue, but they have a similar essence. I like Heather Gray as a wall color because it has this nice silvery, sagey green quality that works really well in those nicely lit conditions. But even if it's a room that maybe doesn't have the best lighting, the coloration will still come through and it won't really muddy the color too much. You have some nice usability there, and it's not going to feel too dark. It's not a 5 LRV off black. Hopefully that should encourage you to experiment with it in different spaces in your home. I can even see this working in a kitchen as a wall color. I think it would look really awesome there. But here's the palette all together. Please let me know what you think. I do love some feedback. And if you want some extra content, if you're a diehard Paint People fanatic, check out our Patreon where we have exclusive brand new content there every single Sunday, a little more personal, I would say. And if you become a Prime member, you get your own personalized mini color quickie palette from me every 3 months. Link in the description down below. And we got more videos right over here.